All right, Gary, thank you very much for doing this.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Okay, so this is the pilot episode of what we're doing here, and adjustments are going to be happening. Each episode, we're going to start with learning some of the basic of who each candidate is. We know each other outside of this, but there's people listening that might not know you. Then we'll move on to some of the questions from the Facebook community page, and then wherever else it might go, depending on what you might want to talk about. Just to let you know, your max time limit is 60 minutes. Candidates can use as much or as little of their time as they want. I'm just trying to get a structure set up here. Full versions of these episodes will be available online on the KBIC members Facebook group. We're going to air these interviews, but we don't have that much time until elections, and 60 minutes could build up quick if I have a bunch of those.
Oh, yeah.
So just to make, KBIC members Facebook group, it's not a personal group, it's the official group. So that's what we're going to be using. The only rule, other than, FCC regulations, no F-bombs, no talking about other people, try to keep it positive, even while speaking of if there's negative aspects or whatever. Another aspect of these videos, and it makes me a little bit nervous because I'm used to putting things together, pre-recorded, edited segments. These are straight cuts. I'm not going to edit these at all, and we're just hitting record and we're going for it with no edits except for the fact that this camera, Gary's camera right here, it only records videos in 10-minute segments. So I'll set a timer here when this timer goes off where we'll set the cameras, and then that'll be the only edit points that everybody sees. And other than that, these episodes are going to be kind of that podcast style. Do you watch any podcasts or listen?
A little bit. Joe Rogan.
There you go. Exactly. He just gets somebody on there and they talk for 3 hours sometimes. We're not going 3 hours.
60 minutes.
60 minutes is good, I think. So let's set my timer here. I don't even know how to set it. Well, first of all, just go ahead and start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you're coming from, stuff like that.
Okay. My name is Gary Loonsfoot Jr. I'm the son of Gary Loonsfoot Sr. and Gail Swartz. Koski, actually, now. I grew up here on the res. I grew up in the Proj, the old school Proj, Cardinal Circle, where I first started. And then, I moved away for a minute. Lived in Toivola, Michigan. My stepfather at the time was a fisherman, so we moved up there where he fished with, Donnie Koski back in the day. And moved back here. About 6th grade, I moved to Gwyn, lived down there for several years until high school. My father was a corrections officer. So when they opened Baraga Maximum up, we relocated, and it was fortunate enough we were able to come back home, and I've been here ever since. Spent a little time on the road. I'm a certified welder. I'm also certified in asbestos abatement and lead removal. I spent some time doing that, and living on the road was just a little too much with a family and everything, so it was time to come home. And since I came home, I was a welder. I got into the welding here, and then like everybody else, and it's something from Baraga County until about 2008 when we had the big crash, and it was back to school for me. And I met the minimum qualifications. I had the amount of time in years for language coordinator at the time, and got into the language field, and really made some strides there. We got back our language tapes from the school, which were actually created by our language program back in '76. That was like the year I was born. So we were cooperative at Michigan Tech, and we got the language program back, the cards and everything in a reader, which is now in custody of the KBOCC, I believe. We entrusted it with them. We redigitized all the ancestors that spoke on it. We had all the elders from '76 spoke on these recordings, and I digitized them and then turned it over to the college for display. I believe it was in their display case for a long time, if it's not still there. And then the next thing we did with the language was get it into the schools. That program is huge. I think it's a great way to not just teach our language, but also our culture, and not just to our own, but to those that live here. We're KBIC, Keweenaw Bay Indian, but there's also that last word, that community, and that encompasses everybody. We got tribal members, we have descendants, and we have none, and we have to all coexist. And that's the community to me is the biggest part. It's everybody. So it's teaching. To me, ignorance can be combated with education, and when we're teaching people why we do things instead of them saying, "Oh, what the Indians are going to do," in this, they'll understand why. They'll get to know the history of why we do things, and the meaning behind them. And I think that is the greatest way to combat ignorance.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about your history with tribal politics.
Well, I was raised into it. My father was on council for many years, and we had an unlisted phone number, and his phone rang off the hook steady. So, I knew what I was getting into, and I was basically groomed into it. A lot of his wisdom was passed on to me, and the fights I seen him struggle through, and the sleepless nights, and he went gray pretty fast when he got on council. He looked like Obama. His first term, he was dark haired.
Running around no shirt on, drinking a Bud Light.
And then when he finished up, he was solid gray, and he said, "I'm leaving this up to you guys now. This is your guys' turn. This is your guys' fight." He did his part, and I want to carry that on. And whenever I have any issues, and just go up and visit him, go ask him. I'll tell him stuff, and he'll be like, "We had a similar situation. This is how we dealt with it. This was the outcome." So there's a lot of history there with that as well. So, I've just always been around tribal politics since I was 17, 16. I mean, if you remember right, I was about 17 when the takeover happened. So I was right at that age where I witnessed everything. So, it's our tribe has been through many tumultuous eras, and I would just like to see continued stability.
So you are an incumbent. This last term is your first term?
Yeah, this is my freshman term.
So let me just kind of dig into that a little bit. How's it been? I mean, you were groomed into it. Is it what you expected?
Yes. Yes and no. I was, told about some of the tough decisions you're going to have to make, but, we've never been in a financial crunch like we're in now. Our gaming revenues are down, and we have just ventured into a $40 million project, that we want to see succeed. And in order to do that, we're going to need the staffing to do it, and we're going to need the people to come there that want to spend their money. So no other council has ever seen the crisis that we're in, and then to me, it's easy to be a council member when everything is going great. It's when you got to make these tough decisions. What program are you going to cut funding to? How many people is it going to affect? That's huge. That weighs a lot on your ability to sleep at night. I mean,
yes.
If you don't feel you're making the right decision, don't make it. That's just, to me, that's what I've learned. It's not always the popular decision. It's what benefits the majority. My father once told me. He told me a long time ago, it's the needs of the many that outweigh the needs of the few. Well, I found out years later that was off of Star Trek, and that was Spock that said that. But it's
still a good quote.
But it still resonates. It still makes the most sense to me. You're gonna, in this field, you're not gonna make everybody happy, and there's no sense in even trying. But it's making the majority not just happy, but you're doing the right thing. To me, that's what matters the most.
Very good. All right, we're getting close to this first time here. We're going to reset the cameras right now. All right, so got the cameras back up and running. So give me the overview of how campaigning is going for now, because it's the heavy campaign season right now, right?
Well, not really. I think people know, they have an idea what they want to vote for. I mean, I'll throw up some signs, but my thing is going door to door. I love seeing the people and hearing. I'm not going to houses promising anything. I'm going with a notepad and pen. I want to hear what people want, what they want to see.
Okay.
To me, that's more relevant than going and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. As an incumbent, people get to see what I've done. They know how I vote. And, our meetings are broadcast, so they know my demeanor. They know my ideology. I'm pro-cannabis, big time, and I think it's the next Silicon Valley, next gold rush. And I don't want to be in a position to say, darn it, we missed the boat.
Yeah.
So, it's people know what they're getting when they vote for me. So I just want to be who I am, be real.
So what are some of those things that are popping up on your notepad the most then? What are people concerned about?
Big thing is, one of the big things is off-res voting. That's always been a big issue, and I am all for treaty land voting. To me, it doesn't make sense to allow Marquette to vote, yet not our brothers in Okanagan.
Yes.
We are once the Ojibwa band of Okanagan Indians, so, we have reservation lands up there. Why aren't they allowed to vote? To me, I would love to see treaty lands vote. But, it doesn't make much sense if you got people in California voting on a budget that includes snow removal when they're not even here. So how could they make an educated, informed decision when they're not part of the climate?
That makes sense.
That's just one aspect. Another thing is contributing to our economy. We do the profit share with the cigarette sales, because that's the people that are here buying the products. Our people are here spending money here. They're renting it. The dollars are going around. To me, that makes sense. Somebody who chooses to live somewhere else, that's up to them. And if you want to be a part of our economy, be a part of our people, then come here and contribute.
Yep. So since you are an incumbent, you did have a little bit more of a view of that. Is that a conversation that is being talked about between the tribal council, or is that something that just really isn't brought up with everything else going on?
It's mumbled about, but it hasn't been brought forward. If you look at the Constitution, basically, I believe you have the right to petition. So that doesn't have to be a council member that does that. For us to have to bring it to the table, if it's not being brought to the table, then as a tribal member who wants to see change, take initiative.
Okay.
Go out and get these signatures. I remember several years back, there were several petitions that floated around, and they weren't started by council members. They were started by our constituents, the concerned citizens. And that's, it's our tribal members that make up our tribe. And if they want to see change, they have to initiate change.
Okay, that's fair enough. Moving on then, what's something else that you've been hearing about going door to door?
Well, just, Christmas checks.
Well, hey, we're here to talk about what people are talking about, and that's one of the things people are wondering about.
We're talking about, the profit sharing from our cigarettes, and I believe we anticipated more in sale, but it didn't come to fruition. But I believe we made $1.3 million, and to me that's a successful business. And anytime that we share profits from that, we can complain that it's not as much as we anticipated, but you know what? I grew up poor. I'm happy to get anything, and it's great to get something. Did we expect more? Maybe, but I'm content with what we're getting, and you know what? I think a lot of people are. They just want to know what we are getting, and to clarify some of the rumors, it's going to be 1,000 to 1,100 is the numbers that I'm looking at, and it's probably closer to the 1,100 side. So It's not like zero, but hopefully in the future with our cannabis business, we are kicking around 10% in profits going to our GWA, also known as our Christmas check. So hopefully we'll see an increase in that as well. First thing, we got to get off the ground, but that's what we're doing now. So.
As we get into this, I'm realizing that you got a lot more pressure here being an incumbent, because you get questions about things that are going on right now. These are questions I might not be able to ask to somebody else. But once again, like I said, I appreciate you doing this. And
I believe the voters have a right to know who they're voting for. I don't expect to be voted in by name or popularity contest. I want people to vote for me for what I believe, my issues.
Okay, so I do want to go to the Facebook page here, because I did open up a post there for people to post some questions. That was one of the big ones that popped up there, off reservation voting and stuff like that. And then, well, I guess something I'm curious about is your motivation to run again. Is it just because you want to, what made you want to rerun? Simple enough.
Continuing what we're doing, stability. We've seen councils that have come in and just paradigm shifts, where things can be going one way one day and then the next they're gone. People are losing jobs. I don't want to see that. I want to see continued growth. It's slowly growing. We are getting these businesses up and running, and I want to see stability. That's the biggest thing. That goes to homes and everything. Kids are a lot more productive when they're stable. Employees are a lot more productive when they're stable. I mean, it's just all around a better environment. So, I want to continue that, and I work well with everybody. I'm
Yep.
one of them guys that, hey, in a campaign trail we didn't agree, but you know what, I will cross the line and work, because it's not like two-party system here. You're either for the tribe or you're not. So there shouldn't be any parties. You're pro-tribal or you're not pro-tribal. To me, that's how I look at it. So
Yeah, I mean, we're a family here. We're a team here. So I do want to go to some of these questions from the Facebook page. We're going to go to this one from Carrie Ashbrook first. She says, what do you think is the greatest challenges facing our tribe? What should we do moving forward?
Economic stability, definitely biggest concern right now. Like I said, it's no secret. Our gaming revenue is on a decline. Gaming as a whole is on a decline. It is a $35 billion a year industry, and like I said, cannabis is poised to be a $50 billion a year industry. So, the best way to combat that, and to get over that, is to invest in other businesses other than gaming. Cannabis Ventures one. I mean, there's so many more that come into play. I just can't think of them. But everything out there makes money. You never see a poor insurance salesman. Banks, grocery stores,
Everybody needs electricity.
we have them here, but they're not native owned. They're not tribally owned. I mean, we could go out and, start a lending. I wouldn't suggest doing the predatory lending, high interest lending that other tribes are doing. But, knowing that we get a Christmas check or whatever, why not borrow against that at a small percentage, or set up structure just like a bank, and if people are working for the tribe, it just comes right out of their check. I mean, so many different revenue making streams. I mean, look at out here, Lake Superior.
Yeah.
Where's the charter fishing service? There's none around. I mean, we have so many opportunities to hunting. There's no guides. There's no hunting guides here. I mean,
Sounds like you're all about setting seeds to really grow some really big programs that last.
And that's not just on the tribe. We have business loans and opportunities for tribal members to go out and start businesses. And to me, when somebody has skin in the game, it's more imperative, it's more personal. I mean, stuff gets done. When somebody's just collecting a check, it's all about T&M, time and material. Well, I got to be here. I don't want to work myself out of a job. But when you got skin in the game and it's your business, you're working. And I'd like to see more of that. That's economic growth to me.
All right, so that leads me to another question then from Carrie. She says, with the growing epidemic on drug abuse, increased tribal children in foster care, what has the tribe done to battle or should be doing to decrease this ongoing problem? So that's two questions, but let's just go with the epidemic of the drug abuse here.
Well, opioid addiction is a curse all across the nation. Fortunately for us, that's the one area federal spending has increased. We are getting more dollars for it. So what we're doing is funding more programs. I think, to me, it's imperative that we get to our youth to teach them, this is the dangers of addiction. This is what this will lead to. And unfortunately, a lot of the children that are in foster care already know this.
Yeah.
And with the growing, and I'll go right into that now. With the growing amount of foster children, we're not seeing it grow in foster homes. It takes a village to raise a child, to me, and that's what I believe. And we've just opened our home up to our granddaughters, and we got two beautiful little girls living with us now. Who
we're hitting a timer. I'm going to reset the cameras right now. We reset the cameras. I apologize for that interruption. It's just the way that camera is built. You were saying that you had just opened up your home to your grandchildren.
Yeah, well, we have, I don't want to call them foster children because they are family, but, that's what we're going to have to do. When we do have a family member that is going through hard times and going through this addiction, we're going to have to step up and, play that role of mom and dad when others aren't, and that's just, that's just the way it is. And there are a lot of tribal families that are already doing that, and we need to support them, not just financially, but clothes, meals. I mean, to me, that's what we need to do, and that's what we've been doing. We have a locker right up at our tribal center. If your children need clothes, come up there and get clothes. We have a lot of programs that offer financial assistance. I think we need to continue doing that, and continue educating our youth on why not to get into it, because it's we all see what happens, but I believe it's a product of depression, of escape. Drugs.
Yeah.
That's what drugs are, is an escape. And people don't realize that when a drug wears off, the problems are still there, if not magnified. Reality comes back. And then you just want to go off and do it again, escape again. So I think teaching our people to deal with their problems and deal with the issues is what we need to do the most.
Education and pretty much the theme of some of your other answers, coming together as a community and working together.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go to, this is a pretty simple question, pretty straightforward. It could be a yes or no question even. This is from Doris Herrera. She says, would you run for council if you're not getting paid as much as you are now? If there was no pay for council, is your motivation there to still drive to do it? Yeah,
it is. My big concern with that is you hear a lot of people say that, but they don't realize that we are one of the lowest paid tribal councils around. Go to LVD, and you don't have a other job. When you're elected to council, it's $100 and some thousand a year just to be a council member.
So, you're an incumbent. How many meetings do you guys actually have throughout the year?
Throughout the year, if you're not talking, I think we had like 12 just for the budgets. Other than that, it was 3 or 4 a month, depending on the business, and then 1 a quarter.
Okay.
So, it adds up. No doubt.
Because I get the agendas in my email, and they're popping up all the time.
Oh, yeah. Especially this time, budget time. If we can make a more sleek process, streamline it, I think we can cut it way down. This year, I know we didn't go over budgets that were grant funded. You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
They're already spoken for. They're accounted for. So why sit and try to beat them to death? It's
yeah.
But you are looking at a process of, especially this year, of cutting back, scaling back, and it's having to take a look at, do we cut this diabetes program? Do we cut the youth program? Do we cut the elders? And like I said, that weighs heavy. Anybody can make an easy decision. When you're not talking about taking something away. When you're talking about that, you have to weigh all of the outcomes, all the decisions that you make. So it made it a little harder this year. This year was definitely tough.
So it is kind of like just the best of two evils sometimes. Overall, though, do you feel like you're able to make progress in there when you're doing these things?
Oh, yeah, definitely. As long as everybody's working together, that's the big thing. If you go and take because there's several directors that are sitting on council. If you go and take from their budget, you don't want retaliation just for the sake of retaliation. This is a process that, nobody wants to do. I read grants, and, you hate telling a tribe, no, you didn't qualify for this funding, even though we know you need it. And that's what we're going through right now. Every program we have is needed. But when you're told you have to scale back up to $2.5 million, where do you start? And that's the toughest thing. That's definitely the toughest part about being on tribal council.
Yeah, it's not something you're just going to punch in and punch out. That's something that's got to carry with you. All right, so let's go back to these questions here. A lot of the questions do seem to have to do with financial stability and the tribe's economic status. Yep. Let's see here. How does serving fit in with your other responsibilities? That question's from Christine M. Mackey.
It depends on what responsibilities you're talking about. Personal responsibilities?
Well, for people that don't know who you are, do you have another job outside of tribal council? And
yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm the director of Cannabis development. So professionally, it makes it easier for me. It fits right in. So I get to keep my council and my community abreast of what we're doing and what our current status is. So,
Good.
That right there is the easiest part. That's easy. When I was director of cultural, or TIPO, that took a lot of time. It takes away from your time to actually be in the field, be reviewing Section 106 reviews. Now it's actually fits in better, and to me it works out good.
All right. So
Excuse me.
let's see. What are some topics you will bring up for change, i.e. policies, community gatherings, etc.? That's also from Christine M. Mackey.
I think the biggest one right now is blood quota.
Okay.
If you look at what Red Lake had just recently done, anybody born prior to 1948 is considered full blood. Now, to me, that seems like a very viable way to tackle this conundrum that we're in. If we stick to the blood quota of 1/4, it's a mathematical certainty that we are going to fail to exist at a certain point. We are going to thin out to where we are only descendants of natives.
And it was designed that way.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the Indian removal.
Yes.
Actually, we have the right and the authority to take control of what our definition of a tribal member is. Do we just say, okay, everybody who's an eighth right now, that's a possibility? Do we go back and fix what Red Lake has done and say, okay, anybody born at this certain date is a tribal member from here on out, is full blood. So the bloodline then trickles down the amount. But, we're definitely going to have to look into it, because I want to see this tribe go on for 7 generations past me. So saying it, with that in mind, we have to address this issue. That's just an imperative. It's like I said, a mathematical certainty. It's going to work.
So can you speak though on the part of that the people that are kind of the arguments that are opposing it, that keeping those certain bloodlines that are, I don't even know how to really phrase it in such a way, the Loonsfoot, the last names and stuff. So can you speak on, is there a risk we're losing anything though if we open it up?
I think if we open it up, it's going to be our resources. It's no secret that we have a limited amount of resources. If we expand our services and our criteria for being a tribal member, there are going to be less resources for everybody else. And you're going to have people that say, well, I'm a real Indian at 1/4 right now, I deserve this.
I guess exactly. That's what I'm asking. What do you feel that does make that qualification? Someone who lives here, knows culture, knows government, knows. What do you think should be the qualifier? I guess you should say.
I don't think, even as a council member, I have that kind of authority to answer.
It's a big question.
It is. It's one that, how do you judge? Are you looking at it from a race perspective, or are you looking at it from a cultural acceptance? You can have somebody that's non-native, completely white, that knows more about your culture and history.
Yeah.
Does that qualify them to be a tribal member?
I've seen some guys with blonde hair bust out sick leads of powwows sometimes.
It's. We've just seen that with what's that woman's name? Dodd. Where she was non-black.
Oh yeah.
It's such a touchy issue, touchy subject. But I think we need to look into. I just know the quota is not the right answer.
Okay. Resetting the cameras again. We're doing good. Something else that's popped up a few more times, which I guess personally, in my opinion, I don't even really have an opinion on it, but what are your view on term limits?
Term limits are, I think, term limits only work if the council member is ineffective. If you have somebody that's in there constantly doing what's right, constantly pushing for economic development, constantly moving forward, why would you want to get rid of them? To me, it seems like, setting a term limit is basically saying, okay, well, you've had your time to represent, time to let somebody else. Well, that's what the voting process is for. If somebody's doing well and continues to do well, then keep them in there. If somebody is not doing well, vote them out. The problem is a lot of people don't like when somebody's in there and it wasn't their choice. So they'll say, okay, well, let's set term limits. Well, why would you need term limits if somebody was ineffective? They should be voted out. It's the will of the people.
Yes.
So to me, term limits are not the answer. It's exercising your right to vote and being an informed voter. Far too often, our attendance at our council meetings are minimal. I mean, I see these questions pop up on Facebook, and it's like, we discussed this at tribal level. This isn't true. Why not educate yourself? Our meetings are broadcast. There's no reason to not know what's going on. Everything we do is transparent. It may have not been the case in the past, but, I was all for broadcasting the meetings,
Yeah.
and, we made the budget process open to tribal members. That's their money. That's their decisions. They want to see what we're doing with it. More than welcome to come. And I would suggest that if you get a chance, please come to our meetings. They're Thursdays, start at 9 a.m. Once a quarter. They're on the first Saturday. So please come. There's no need to post something that isn't real when you actually have access to the truth.
Well, although I do want to point out with these episodes, I am claiming back the KBIC Tribal Members Facebook page. There's been drama in the past. They made the new KBIC Members page because of that drama. This KBIC Tribal Members page is going to be the official communication now, so that's where the real deal should be at. I think at this point, we can is there a certain topic that you want to talk about or cover? If not, then I'll give you the opportunity to just sort of address the people one more time and give them your last points of campaign before we sign off.
I just want to talk about our cannabis venture. We are looking at getting going down in Negaunee. I meet with our engineers and our grower on Thursday morning. I'll be down in Warren, Michigan, to go over blueprints with them to get our final grow space situated. Then we're going to be putting out for bids for contractors, and we are going to get going. Just looking forward to that. I want to see economic prosperity in this community, and I feel this is the next gold rush. And like I said earlier, I don't want to be 50 years down the road saying, darn, I wish we would have got on that boat and that boat sailed and we missed it. I want to know that, I did everything I could in my part to be part of it. And hopefully it blows up like I think it's going to, like I know it's going to. I mean, you look into the West when we do our market studies, it's like, okay, well, this is going to happen in this amount of time. We're going to see first 4 years, just huge sales.
Yeah.
And then as the market gets flooded, price of everything is going to drop. We can situate ourselves to be growers no matter what, because, we should have a abundant amount of employees. At the end of the day, growing is farming. So, as tribal members, if this comes off of Schedule 1, which I hope it does, I mean, that would be tremendous. We can assert ourselves even stronger. But as for now, we have to do what we have to do, and I think it's still an economic opportunity that we can't pass up.
Yeah, I mean, in this format, I'm allowed to show my preferences. I'm all for it. I can't wait. I mean, the numbers are there. It's going to be exciting to see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is with these communities that are opting out, not wanting to sell, it's not being shut out completely. It's still legal to smoke and possess in these communities. The difference is they're losing out on the money that could be made from the tax revenue. So it's not that your community is opposed to it. You're opposed to making money from it.
Yes.
Because your member or your community is still allowed statewide to smoke, grow, everything else. So to me, it doesn't make sense. And eventually I'd like to see a tribal dispensary, tribal grow. That's what we're going to push for, when we're able to. But for right now, we'll jump through the state hoops. We'll still make money.
Yep, step by step. All right, so let's wrap this up by a last word to voters out there.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to the voters in the community for voting me in for my first term. Hopefully, I've shown you guys what I got. How I feel about things. You know what I do. I'd like to continue supporting you, representing you, because that's one of my things too. Is when they call us leaders. To me, I'm not really, I don't consider myself a leader. I consider myself a representative. I'm a mouthpiece for those that can't speak, for those that want their voices heard. And that's what I want to continue to do. And I am looking for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.